Hi, I'm Remnexus. How is it that Skyrim, a game released 12 years ago, has changed from the fuzzy, clunky game I used to play on my Xbox 360 into the ultra high resolution, super smooth 60 frames per second game that we see today? In this video, we will explore how both graphics and performance of Skyrim have improved since its release on PlayStation and Xbox. Note that this improvement in Skyrim's graphics and performance didn't happen overnight. It is the result of a bunch of incremental improvements which took place over time, and I'll highlight them all for us. Should be interesting. Okay, let's get going. This video is part of a series I've been doing on the graphics of Skyrim. If it's the first one you've seen, you started in the right place. Think of this video as like the money shot. This is the one where we get to see the biggest differences in graphics and performance quality between the older and the newer systems. A quick note about Skyrim on PC and Skyrim mods. We all know they exist, and I think we agree that playing on PC and using mods can improve the graphics and performance of Skyrim over what we even see today. But we won't talk about them today. This video is about the products as released on consoles and re-released and re-released. And I want to show you the improvements that's happened over time with every release. As I mentioned in my first Skyrim video, I bought the PC version on release and then got my hands on the 360 version not long after. I still have my saves for my two-handed skull-cleaving Nord on PC and my slightly evil sword and board-wielding orc on my 360, but I only actually finished the game outright last year, and this was with my destruction magic and sword-loving high elf, who helped crush the Stormcloak Rebellion before becoming a vampire and then defeating the last Dragonborn. And all this I did on my Xbox Series X. And although I love my PlayStations, I have to confess I only got my hands on the PlayStation version of Skyrim a couple of months ago to do this video. If you find what I'm doing interesting, perhaps consider subscribing. That would be awesome. Give me a like as well. That would be greatly appreciated. 2011 Skyrim initial release. Skyrim came out on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in November 2011. It ran at 720p and at a maximum of 30 frames a second. Not long after, a whole bunch of patches were released, I think up to 9, and in 2012 all 3 expansions came out. In 2013, a patched up version of the game and all expansions were combined together into the Skyrim Legendary Edition. The Xbox One and PlayStation 4 was also released in 2013. For many games, including my beloved Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, it was easy just to put your 360 disc into the Xbox One and play the game in backwards compatibility mode. No problem. However, this was not possible for Skyrim. No backwards compatible patch was ever made for the game. We had to wait until 2016 for Skyrim on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 when Bethesda released the Skyrim Special Edition. This version of the game brought with it a bunch of graphical enhancements and ran on both consoles at an improved 1080p resolution, though still at 30 frames a second. Whilst collecting footage comparing original Skyrim with the Special Edition, I noticed a few functional differences between them that I thought I'd just point out quickly. Perhaps the most noticeable difference is that neither the Xbox 360 nor PlayStation 3 versions of Skyrim have a quick save feature, and this is made more inconvenient as saving is noticeably slower than on the newer consoles. As an aside, I like the way Bethesda has implemented quick saves and quick loads on Quake on the Xbox. That would be nice to see on Skyrim. For original Skyrim, saves are also not sorted by characters, just one big long list. Load times are noticeably slower. This is perhaps not surprising. Sprint was a thumbstick hold for original Skyrim on console. It's not a toggle, which is perhaps not a big deal, except that control in general seemed a little bit less precise on the earlier consoles. Finally, there is noticeable input lag compared to the later versions, though this could be as much due to the hardware of the time as the game itself. Anything I've missed? Let me know, I'm curious. 2016 and 17, Skyrim Special Edition Pro patches. The PlayStation 4 Pro was released at the end of 2016, and Bethesda was quick to release a Pro patch, taking advantage of the additional power the Pro console provided. This enabled Skyrim to run at 4K resolution for the first time on a console. At about the same time, Bethesda updated all special editions of Skyrim and also to Fallout 4 to make use of user-created mods, a very unusual but welcome feature on consoles. 12 months later, Xbox One's bigger brother was released, the Xbox One X. Bethesda released a Skyrim patch for it also. Graphics and performance on the Xbox One X was on par with the PlayStation 4 Pro, and both ran Skyrim at 4K and at 30 frames a second, with little discernible difference in graphics quality between them. So here's a quick test. One side of the video I'm about to show you is from my Xbox Series X, correction, it's from my Xbox One X, and the other side is from my Xbox 360. The question for you is, which side is which? I captured this footage to try and demonstrate the improvements the Skyrim Special Edition brought beyond just resolution. So, new textures, higher polygon count, higher definition shadows and draw distance, all that good stuff. So, to control for resolution, I set both consoles to output the game at 1080p. I'm just showing you this as I was a little surprised at how similar the two run-throughs of Dragon Bridge look. The Xbox One X version is on the left. So this is the same situation, Xbox 360 running original Skyrim on one side, and Xbox One X running Skyrim Special Edition on the other side, both at 1080p. But besides that, everything else is about the same. Different characters, but same time of day and about the same weather. Also, while I was taking this footage, this happened.
Naked! Naked, naked, naked!
Oh yeah, so that I removed all my armor because I could not sync the two sides of the video. The two different characters were running at different speeds. And the orc was running a bit slower. I thought, take the armor off, see if that helps. But I forgot all about it. And then this kid starts yelling at me. I'm thinking, what is going on? Anyway, it was just a little funny thing that happened whilst I was making this video. Now, to provide a more realistic comparison, here's some footage of the same consoles captured and displayed side by side at their native resolutions. Differences in consoles should be obvious. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X were both released at the end of 2020. Initially, Skyrim could be played on these consoles by running the previous generation code in backwards compatibility mode. So, the PlayStation 5 initially ran the PlayStation 4 Pro version of the game. It was actually labelled as a PlayStation 4 game. And the Xbox Series X ran the Xbox One X version of Skyrim. This meant that, upon release, both consoles ran Skyrim in 4K, but still at 30 frames a second. There was some grumblings about this at the time, including from me, as both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X had significantly more horsepower than the previous generation consoles, but it seemed the extra grunt was not being utilised to improve the performance of Skyrim. Apparently the Xbox Series S initially ran Skyrim at only 1080p at 30 frames a second, which would be the same performance specs as the base Xbox One. To prove us grumblers right, and to maybe keep us quiet, a modder released a fan-based mod for Skyrim on the Xbox Series consoles called the 60 FPS mod. A second modder did the same for the PlayStation 5 not long after. Apparently the mods were just simple ini tweaks which disabled the 30 FPS cap and allowed Skyrim to run wild, taking advantage of all the extra horsepower under the bonnet up to the game engine ceiling of 60 frames a second. And it worked. Digital Foundry did a great assessment on it, finding frame rates often did hit 60 frames a second. You might be interested to see what happens to Skyrim if you use this same mod on an Xbox One X and unlock its 30 frames per second cap. It can be done, and let's just say it does have an effect In fact, I made a video of it as part of this Skyrim series, which I recommend you might want to check out. It provides good evidence that sometimes there's a good reason to lock a game at 30 frames a second. I'm thinking about Starfield here. Yeah, check it out. On the Xbox Series consoles, the 60 FPS mod was soon replaced with Microsoft's own FPS Boost feature. FPS Boost allowed the Series consoles to increase frame rate of many older games, including Fallout 3 and New Vegas and Skyrim, from 30 to 60 frames a second. Some other games, such as Mirror's Edge and Titanfall 2, could even hit 120 frames a second. The PlayStation 4 Pro does have a game boost feature of its own, but this only boosts native PlayStation 4 games, not games with dedicated PlayStation 4 Pro versions like Skyrim. Stutters on Xbox Series X when set to 120Hz. Here's something to watch out for. If you're lucky enough to have a 120Hz television, then the Xbox Series X give you the option to play Skyrim at 120Hz. But I recommend you don't do this. It results in a fairly consistent and rather annoying microstutter. I personally experience this a lot. I always have to set my console back down to 60Hz when playing Skyrim. I've seen similar reports of this online. 2021 Skyrim Anniversary Edition. Skyrim Anniversary Edition came out 10 years to the day after Skyrim's initial release, so on the 11th of November 2021. The Anniversary Edition can be bought. It includes Skyrim Special Edition plus all the Creation Club content, of which there's over 70 items. You can grab the upgrade if you already own Skyrim Special Edition. The upgrade just contains the Creation Club content. On the day the Anniversary Edition was released, all versions of Skyrim Special Edition received a patch, sometimes confusingly called the Anniversary Edition patch. That patch upgraded Skyrim Special Edition to be a native next-gen game on both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series consoles. The new patch meant Skyrim now targeted 60 frames a second. But, just to be clear, with the latest patch installed, Skyrim Special Edition and Skyrim Anniversary Edition are still the same game. There was an added bonus for owners of the Xbox Series S. With this latest patch, Skyrim Special Edition, Anniversary Edition, was now playable in 1440p, not 1080p, and at 60 frames a second. It was a really big improvement. Which is most important, resolution or frame rate? The management of game performance between the Sony and Microsoft consoles differed. The PlayStation 5 version of Skyrim locks resolution at 4K and will drop frames to avoid screen tearing when it's under high load. This means frame rate on the native PlayStation 5 version of Skyrim will drop below 60 frames a second, but it will always output a native 4K image. This approach to performance management is in contrast to the Xbox Series version, which instead uses dynamic resolution scaling, reducing the output resolution below 4K at times of high workload in order to keep frame rates as close as possible to 60 frames a second. This difference in approach between the Sony and Microsoft consoles is consistent with their approach to Skyrim performance on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One generations, and the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, which I mentioned in part 1 of this video series. But which approach is better? When you're in combat, you're not likely to notice that a farmer's axe coming down on your head is rendered in 4K, but you're more likely to notice that when you're raising your shield to block, it's done so on a nice, smooth 60 frames a second. So using that rationale, the Xbox Series X approach makes most sense, but in practice, the difference is not significant, I don't think. I've talked a lot about Skyrim's performance so far, but what about the quality of graphics between the different versions on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5? Yeah, that's a good question. Glad you asked. I collected a bunch of uncompressed screenshots taken at the same location at the same time in game, both indoors and outdoor shots. It does seem the PlayStation 5 native version does draw grass in a different way to the PlayStation 4 version, as you can see from some of these shots I'm showing. But overall, the folded density and type was the same. In short, there was no difference in graphics quality for Skyrim on the PlayStation 4 Pro, PS4 on PS5, and native PS5. I did make an attempt to generate screenshots to compare graphics on all consoles and the PC versions that I have access to. I'll show you some of the screenshots I did gather. I've got to be honest, this did take a while to do. It was quite satisfying in the end. The main issues for outdoor scenes are time of day for shadow locations and weather. For the PC version, weather can be controlled via console commands, and literally as I'm writing this, I just realised I could have used the clear skies shout on consoles to generate consistent weather, but I didn't think of that at the time, and I'm sorry, but I won't be repeating it. Yeah. So how does Skyrim compare on the Xbox Series X to the PlayStation 5? I do not notice any difference at all during a normal play session, and even if leaning in looking for differences, I do have trouble seeing any. Although I spend probably too much of my spare time quantifying game performance, truth be told, I am a big believer that the proof of the pudding is in the playing, shall we say. By which I mean, if you don't notice the difference during a typical play session, then there is no functional difference, despite what the numbers might tell you. The qualifier here is that some people will notice a difference in gaming performance where others won't. There's no one ideal number for frame rate and resolution. Okay, so what's next? There are still a bunch of interesting things about Skyrim on different systems that I want to show you, but the next video won't be Skyrim. Perhaps Fallout New Vegas and maybe Oblivion, as a few of you have suggested I look at Oblivion. Skyrim is my current wind down game. You know what I mean? I turn Skyrim on to take a break from it all, to turn my brain off. And the beauty of the game is a big part of that. The vistas, the towns, just to watch a dragon in flight. It takes me away. This is a new channel I'm starting. Still in the early days, I'm still learning. So any likes and subscribes would be greatly appreciated. I'll be pumping out a whole bunch of videos of this kind of quality in the future. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on this journey, looking at all the different variations in Skyrim. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really keen for your comments. I read them all. I reply as I can. The positive feedback I've received on the videos I've done so far have really motivated me to keep the quality of my work up. There's more videos coming along. Cheers. Ramnexus out.